What's up, cousin? How are y'all doing? Is this working good? Okay. So I want to start by thanking Elizabeth. I know I gave her some stress. These type of things, words, they come to me at the last minute. So thank you, Elizabeth, for bearing with me. I just Googled knock-knock jokes that get you a laugh on demand. So you ready? You ready? Knock-knock. Tank. You're welcome. They used to call me the knock-knock teacher in middle school, so had to get a good start here. I really struggled when rolling through the Rolodex, trying to figure out what could I possibly come that would, make you feel something. Like I like those type of stories that make you think, make you feel, grip the heart a little bit. And so I hope that, here goes nothing, right? I've had a lot of experiences in life. And when I was rolling through my Rolodex of potential stories to lift up, I'm like going through, it's like childhood trauma, nah, that's too serious. Life growing up poor with a single parent mom, it's like, okay, kind of played out. Running for office this October, nah, quick plug. How I started a nonprofit called Juice Orange Mound. Now we're on to something. So a lot of folks never get to hear this story. And it really is crazy because you think about how many of you have had transformative life experiences? Have you? They don't come to everyone, but I've had one that really shifted my paradigm, right? I'm going to take you back 6 years ago when I found myself in Calcutta, India, in one of the most surreal experiences of life. If you've ever gone to India, then you know that it's just like all of your senses are just on in one moment, right? Like there's just so much stimulation around you. And I found myself in one of the most densely populated cities across the whole country of India, in Calcutta. And so, of course, the natural question that I would ask myself is like, Lord, what am I doing here? It was so many moments where I was just confused by my existence in this magical place. And so there was an actual reason that I found myself in India. I was there after my first year of graduate school at the University of Pennsylvania. And back stateside, there had been an advertisement for a trip to India. I was fresh in my travels, so of course, I want to go to India? Yeah, whatever it is, sign me up. And so in the informational, I hear this reference about sex workers. I'm like, sex workers? Oh, what? Okay, India? Okay, so we're going to India. Didn't really know what we were doing, just knew that I was going to India. And so once we got there, I learned that we were there. Well, I knew before we went. It wasn't like, oh, this is why we're bringing you here. We were going to do research. And so in my Christian egotistical mind, I'm thinking I'm going to save some sex workers, to do this magical work of helping them shape their lives, to be better people. None of this was ever spoken, but just when I reflect back on me pre-paradigm shift, that's where I was, in a very subconscious way of needing to help in some type of way. I love telling stories because you always find that one person that you're meshing with and you're giving me life. And so we're here. If it's no one else, I'm here for you. So I find myself in Calcutta, India. So the way it went, our very first day, we're in the classroom, and we're learning more about what we're there to do. And they tell us that night we're actually going to get to walk in the Sonagachi red light district. And so, I'm a licensed social worker. I'm like down for a field experience. I'm like, yes, like let's go do this. And so you can imagine this group of awkward, I don't know, liberally hopeful, like 12 students. I'm the only dot within the group because my friend is mixed and she looks like she's Puerto Rican. So when you just look at her, you can't really tell that there's any black connection that she has. So I'm just there. Normally I wear my hair in like a fro, and so I just stand out very awkwardly in this group. And so we are preparing to listen to Pintu, who's going to take us through the red light district and tour us on this place. No phones are allowed. And it was just so awkward because he was so confident and just so natural in that space that as he was walking us through, it was just nothing to him. But, for you on the inside, because you're trying to keep up with your inner judgments, it's no eye contact or eye contact. You only want to walk and look, and you only want to look for a very long time, and you only want it to be okay. And because of the language barrier, because of the cultural differences, you actually feel entitled to do that, but then you're like, oh, I want to be a good person, so I won't do it. And so it was just a lot of tension. It was just so much tension. I was just I don't feel free here. And so, but we're walking through, and it's dusk is approaching, and it's almost correlative. The darker that it gets, the more people that it just starts to populate. I don't know where these people came from. It was just life just was you see those videos when you're going through the Amazon or something, and then it's just life just starts to sprout up. It was just so much action that was happening all around. And of course, because of who we were there with, I remember wanting to just see women, right? I wanted to see how human to human, what that contact was like. I just wanted to just really, really just sit there and observe. And so people really didn't seem to notice us. It was this real surreal moment where we're just walking through, no real engagement on our part or the outside world's part. But we see women and we see men and we see these exchanges, and it's this beautiful sight of just these dirty saris and these men who are just just everything is just surreal. And so we go through that experience, we get back, we debrief, we continue to get into our groups, and we're talking about which project we're gonna choose. And so I'm a bad mama. I have a power mind, so I'm just listening for the options. It's work with kids. I'm what? Kids, I didn't come here to work with kids, I came here to do some real stuff. And so they're talking about education, and they're talking about other things that were lighter. And then they mentioned economics. And so I'm yeah, there's some meat right there. Let's get to the money. And so I signed up to do research with their bank. And so what I'm talking about from a state of disenfranchisement, and when you think about sex workers, I wish I could have asked you to pause to think about what was your initial impression when you heard the term sex worker. It's not that at all. This is where the shift starts to happen. So Durbar is a word that means, and I wrote it down, it means unstoppable. And so that's the name, the English name of the sex workers union. So it's actually 65,000 women who, men and women who are sex workers that have come together to form the largest sex workers union in Asia. And so, okay, come on, can we get some snaps for that? I don't think that's a small feat. I think that's pretty impressive. And they've come together, and because of their disenfranchised experiences, you can imagine as a sex worker, you go to the bank to try to open up a bank account, and it's rejected just because when you put down profession and you say sex worker, you're immediately not allowed to open your bank. Or you go to school, your children go to school, or they're not, they're picked on. They're not given a space to be able to just be educated because they have this stigma placed over them. And so, 65,000 folks have come together and decided that enough is enough and that they're going to create for themselves. And so for them, that looked like creating a school. For them, that looked like creating a bank. And so my work with USHA was literally just to, that's the name of the bank, to come and to explore client satisfaction. So it wasn't at all, I wasn't there to evangelize, I wasn't there to save women. I was there to actually just provide them with data to be able to show how useful their bank is to the women that are a part of it. And so I don't know, if you're into this, then you're probably wondering how it works. And so their model is ingenious. They use sons and daughters of sex workers who serve as collectors. And so they send the collectors out brothel to brothel, and they meet the women and the men at their doorstep. And so because of trust factors, because I know how to find you, because you are such and such son, such and such, it's very communal, I'm trusting nominal donations to you, and the collectors serve as runners to go back to the centralized bank. And so the bank had at that point been in existence for 10 years. And so we were just there to do, like I said, client satisfaction, to see the impact of the bank. And so from our studies, and the cool thing about this is that we went with our translator to the brothels. So you can imagine I'm sitting on the bed where, this is the space where the work of the sex worker happens, and I'm here asking, questions like, what has your experience been with banking with USHA? Like, what have the benefits been? What have been some of the drawbacks been? It was really, really powerful work. And so in our research, we found that women, as they aged, as you can imagine that once you're an aging sex worker, it's crazy because I'm almost saying social worker, so it's like, let me not use different type of social. As women and men are aging out of sex work, they found that those nominal donations added up over time, and that they actually had enough savings to be able to transition out. So we were finding men and women who were able to turn into owners of brothels, folks who were able to buy land and be able to build a house in rural areas. And so that I always thought was something that was just, I didn't go to Calcutta, India to be inspired by sex workers, right? I went there to save. I went there to give them something, and you can imagine my amazement when I was able to receive so much intellectually from their ability to not just let oppression limit them, but for it to liberate them. And so I brought that back stateside. I always thought that I was going to reside in Philadelphia. I actually cheated on Memphis with Philadelphia. I will confess that. I loved it. I love the city. I love the spirit of the city. And when I came back home, I just started to really open my eyes to things happening all around me, right? And so one of those things were dynamics in Orange Mound and Cooper Young. Really stood out to me, right? I am a native of Orange Mound, and 2 bridges over is a community called Cooper Young. And so when I came back home, Teach for America brought me home, I looked at Cooper Young, and I was, very, very excited about the development. Truth be told, I was really excited. One, because I'm from Memphis, so that means that Nashville is woo, we're coming up, yeah, come on, Cooper Young, bring that development here, how's that, Nashville? So I did get excited, and the excitement was something that was so contagious that I went back home to Orange Mound really looking for the development in my home community. And I don't know when's the last time you've driven around Orange Mound, but the development much looks like what I experienced about 5 years ago, and being that there was none. You know, the house literally next to me had a tree growing in it. There were so many buildings that I was formerly familiar with that had been deconstructed, right? And so it was not an inspiring place. Clearly, private investment had not made its way. And the things that I was hearing on the streets were things that really disappointed me. Just Orange Mound doesn't have anything to offer. People don't care. The community needs private investment to come back alive. All these things that were very deficit-based, right? People just did not believe that Orange Mound had anything to offer. And so, of course, I'm a native. I have a healthy Orange Mound ego. You can test it if you want to. I wouldn't recommend it, but I go hard for my home community. And so when I heard those things, I really, really started to get frustrated. And so I went back through, the walk down memory lane, and I'm going back through experiences, trying to piece things together, like, what can I do? These are also my first years as an adult in Memphis. And so I really felt like a sense of responsibility to step up. And I will say that our high school students, as a high schooler, you think that adults are holding it down. I don't know how you were, but I just never thought about things. Like, adults were just doing what adults do, taking care of issues. And so you reemerge as an adult and you realize that these issues are not taken care of. Adults, you're just like, what happened? Like, what have y'all been doing? All right, so we got a little more work to do. So when I was a young adult in Orange Mound, I knew that the only thing I had was the belief that Orange Mound was already enough, right? That we didn't need any private investor to validate who we are and what we have. And so I started to think to myself, what is it that we have? Like, is there something that everyone has that we can do something with? And then it dawned on me, and I will say Give 365 served as a source of inspiration if you're a donor, right? It did. And I was like, I don't know if I can get people to commit to $1 a day, a little steep. But I do think and I do believe that everyone has spare change. So what that looked like, and I thought about the collection model of Durbar and how, small amounts added up and how over time it impacted people's behavior and gave people different outcomes. So with Juice, we organize quarterly canvases. We send volunteers out and they go door to door. They collect spare change from residents, and then we pool that money and we use it to fund projects. And the most beautiful part about this, you can whoop whoop if you want to. I think it's amazing. And we've done this. We've to date funded 7 community-based projects. And the beautiful part, thank you, another friend. Yes. The really, really cool part about it is once a project is completed, everyone gets to say that they played a part in it. If you gave a quarter, if you gave $1, if you gave 50 cents, then you actively contributed to your community. Who cares how much the project, total was to actually execute it? You played a part in it, you get to own it. And so we're empowering Orange Mound residents one project at a time. And I started off thinking about just how special the Red Light District was for Orange Mound and what that has meant to us. And so I think I had a quote, because I love quotes. Anybody else love quotes? I know. I'm like that person. At this point, I don't even tell you who the quote is. Quotation marks just let you know it's not my words. So it's just I quote all the time. So when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So I know, right? I feel it. Thank you so much. And tonight I hold space for all of the inspiration that's halfway across the world in the Sonogahchie Red Light District. Thank you.